Imagine being dropped into ancient Greece and surviving 100 days as the god of strength, Hercules. There's one problem. You're competing against the gods of terror and fear in a deadly competition for the throne of Olympus. Can you overcome the extraordinary obstacles to reach the peak of Mount Olympus? Stay tuned to find out. On day 1, I spawned in as Hercules, the god of strength, and I was immediately faced with the ancient Greek gods, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. I was now in the heart of the temple of Mount Olympus.
Welcome, Hercules! The Council of Olympus has voted. There shall be a competition for the throne of Olympus.
Competition? Like the Olympics?
Not exactly.
All of a sudden, lightning crashed down with a cloud of smoke on either side of me, revealing two menacing figures.
Looks like we're right on time.
Now that all competitors have arrived, let me explain. The competition will take place across the land of Greece. All competing gods will be dropped into different regions without any of their powers. There will be many obstacles and important steps you must take to reach the final showdown. The last god standing will be crowned king of Olympus.
Sounds grand and all, but who will be my partner?
Do I have to be the one to tell him? You're all alone, Hercules. Your siblings have run with their tails between their legs.
Quiet, Ares! As I was saying, each member of the council could enter 2 of their children into the competition. Most of them weren't interested, therefore you'll be competing against Ares' sons, Deimos and Phobos. I have faith you'll prove to be a worthy successor.
Sounds like your father has high hopes for you.
Let's hope he survives the first day.
Now, let's begin.
In a flash of lightning, I was transported to ancient Greece, but I was completely stripped of my powers. And on the other side of ancient Greece, Deimos and Phobos were transported in the same way. The competition for the throne of Olympus had begun. It wasn't long till I realized I had permanent strength and night vision as the god of strength. So I began by punching some wood and crafting some stone tools. I then began exploring and got myself some sugarcane, then went into the forest and fought off some wild dogs. I barely survived the encounter and had to run away, and eventually found some cows. I then cooked up the meat and regen my health, and with the sun setting, I began looking for a cave and took shelter for the night. While in the cave, I mined myself some coal and also mined some iron. I then smelted it up, crafted myself an iron pickaxe and shield, fought off some mobs in the cave, and made my way up for the start of day 2. I was running low on food, so I found some animals and took down some cows, chickens, pigs, and even found some sheep for wool, and collected some wood so I could make myself a bed. I then continued exploring the land and eventually found myself a river. However, when approaching the river, I noticed something on the other side. When I had a closer look, I saw a village house. So I swam across the river, and while approaching, I noticed someone coming down the stairs. When I reached the steps, I was greeted by 2 villager guards.
Who goes there?
Hercules? Zeus must have sent you.
Well, kind of. There's a lot to explain, but...
Please, let us show you around Olympia. We need your assistance.
Okay, I guess you can show me around. You lead the way. I then hesitantly followed the 2 villagers, which began touring me around the town square. I wasn't impressed until they took me to the bridge, where I saw a massive statue of Zeus on the mountain, as I was now in the village of Olympia. We continued to the other side of the bridge where there were massive farms and villager homes.
As you can see, there's just enough homes for our villagers, but Olympia is lacking in infrastructure, which is why we need your leadership.
Leadership? I just got here. How am I supposed to do that already?
Well, don't ask me. You're the one who's the son of Zeus.
All hail our new leader!
Over that bridge is an empty plot of land where you can build your home. We'll stand by for your orders, Hercules.
So my first 5 minutes of entering this village, I was shown to a plot of land where I could make a base, and was appointed as leader of the village. I didn't feel I was exactly ready for this position, but I moved forward with collecting some wood so I can make my base. So after collecting all the wood I would need, I quickly built the perimeter of my house, slept through the night, and then continued building my base for the rest of day 3. I decided to move my small base to the edge of the land, so I'd have room to make a much better one later. I decided to make this a pretty simple looking shack, complete with a spruce roof, and slightly built into the hill. I completed the interior with chests, furnaces, and crafting tables, and room for expansion underground. After placing down some torches around my base, in a flash of lightning, Zeus, the god of thunder, had appeared.
I see you've taken over Olympia, Hercules. Have you begun expanding your civilization?
Well, I've only just finished building my home, Zeus.
It seems you've already fallen behind on your competition. Although I can't tell you their exact location, Deimos and Phobos have already begun expanding their civilizations in other regions. Sparta, led by Deimos, and Athens, led by Phobos.
Already? Well, what should I do then, Zeus? I don't even know where to start.
Your focus should be on infrastructure. You'll want to start with supplies like farms and animal pens. Then you must bolster an army in case of any invaders. That will require a barracks, armor, and weaponsmiths.
That seems like a lot to build on my own.
Which is why you'll put your villagers to work. You must be resourceful, Hercules. But you also must get stronger yourself. With you, Deimos, and Phobos being stripped of your powers, Ares and I will give you quests to regain your powers.
Zeus then threw me an ancient explorer map, which seemed to lead to some kind of dungeon.
Remember, Hercules, you must outsmart them if you want any chance at victory. Now get to work.
In a big flash of lightning, Zeus had disappeared, and I now had a lot of tasks ahead of me. I was also gonna need better equipment to take on these ancient ruins. So I crafted an iron sword and axe, went to sleep for the night, but at the start of day 4, I had an idea to go ask for Leon and Andy's help. Leon, Andy, I'll need both of you to order some workers around to gather materials for a barracks.
Roger that.
Roger that.
So after putting Leon and Andy to work, I made a little signboard right next to my base and started listing the goals for my new civilization. And my main goal was gonna be to make an army barracks. And if I had time, I'd expand the farms. I then went out to a cave to go mine myself some more iron, as I was gonna need all the minerals I could get. After mining plenty of iron from the cave, I smelted it all up, crafted myself full iron armor, and an empty bucket. I then collected the rest of the iron and decided to venture deeper into the cave. Eventually, after going down deep enough, I found my first vein of diamonds and made myself a diamond pickaxe to get some obsidian. I then returned back to base and gathered some of the wheat from the local wheat farm to craft myself some bread. After getting plenty of wheat, I went to go look for some animals and found some sheep, but noticed there were rams nearby. I tried approaching the sheep, but got immediately attacked by one of the rams. I had to clutch with my water bucket to break my fall and got knocked into the air again. But after a couple swings of my iron sword, I defeated the ram. After defeating the rest of them, I lured the sheep over to my base and trapped them in a little pen. On the next morning, I also brought some cows over, and with the sugarcane I got earlier, I crafted myself a book and then crafted an enchantment table. I then crafted myself an iron shovel and began expanding underground. I made a little stairwell and cleared out a small room where I would place my enchanting station. All that was missing was bookshelves, so I took some sugarcane and planted it on the river. I then smelted up some of the gold I got from mining and made some golden apples, and enchanted my diamond pickaxe, sword, and all of my iron armor. And before leaving to find the ancient ruins, I got myself some more food. I was prepared and ready to leave, but then ran back into Leon and Andy. It seemed like they got all the materials needed for the barracks, so I told them to put them in the chest and continued on my way to find the ancient ruins. So after a couple days of traveling through the Olympian region, I eventually saw the ruins in the distance. I then approached the center of the ruins to look around for an entrance. After looking around for a little bit, I realized I couldn't mine any blocks. After looking around a bit more, I eventually found a lever in the corner of the ruins. Flicking the lever, the door to the ruins started to open. I immediately noticed some pressure plates down below, so I was careful in jumping down and avoided the pressure plates. When I turned around, I was greeted by lava parkour. There was also a chest in the wall which had some loot, including gold and redstone, and after a few more jumps, I was onto the other room. In this room, I was able to easily find one of the traps which had some poison arrows, and found another chest with loot with some diamonds and lapis. After destroying a couple more traps, I entered the next room which was filled with scorpions. I fought off the scorpions which poisoned me heavily, so I retreated into the next room and used the walls for cover. After regenerating my health, I defeated the scorpions one by one, but was now faced with an empty room. I began looking around for some kind of clue to get to the next room, and after looking in each one of the pits of water, I eventually found a hidden button. After pressing it, the door began to open and a giant golem was on the other side. I quickly jumped down to take on the ancient golem, but was immediately hit by one of its attacks. I landed a couple attacks on the golem, but got hit by a giant swipe attack. The golem reared to attack me again, which connected, forcing me to use a golden apple. I then barely dodged another one of its attacks and landed some more hits on the golem. I then ate some food to regen and got hit by another swipe attack from both arms. After landing a couple hits, the golem was then weakened, allowing me to combo it down to half HP. The golem got up and then shot a laser beam, which I was not expecting. I tried running away from the golem, but got hit by one of its laser beams and ate my last golden apple. I took this opportunity to land some hits and landed another hit which weakened the golem. With it weakened again, I landed as many hits as I could until I eventually defeated the golem. The golem collapsed to the ground and disintegrated and dropped some kind of loot. I then decided to make the jump over and picked up an ancient essence. With the golem defeated, I was now able to mine, and I then decided to take all the iron blocks within the ruins. I then built my way back to the entrance and then pillared back up to the surface. With all the loot on me from the ancient ruins, I decided it was a good idea to start start heading back to base. So after another couple days of traveling, I eventually made it back to the village of Olympia. I then ran back to my base and then stashed all of the loot. With all of the poison arrows I had gotten from the ruins, I decided to craft and enchant a bow. I then went over to the chest to see what kind of materials Leon and Andy had gotten, and now had plenty of materials to build myself a barracks. Once I had exited the chest, a flash of lightning appeared, and Zeus had re-emerged.
I see, you've returned in one piece. Don't you have something for me?
You know, I do have this ancient essence for you, but you could have warned me about the golem in the ruins. I would have prepared a bit more. Zeus then asked me to hand the ancient essence over to him, and after doing so, he infused me with the power of the ancient essence, returning me back to my godly form. Hey, I feel a little bit taller now. Not only was I taller, but I now had 20 hearts, and had gained the leap ability.
Since you've acquired some of your power, I have a new quest for you. Take this recipe and use it to appoint the second in command to your army once you've built your barracks.
So I picked up the recipe that Zeus had dropped for the commander helmet. Before I could take a look at the recipe, a portal had appeared right next to Zeus, and a guardian angel had exited the portal, and then went up to Zeus to inform him of something, and ran back right into the portal.
I must get back to Olympus now, Hercules. Don't disappoint me.
Zeus then quickly jumped through the portal, bringing him back to Mount Olympus, where he was facing Ares, the god of war.
Zeus, one of our scouts reported an infiltration was detected in the battlegrounds and is wreaking havoc in the Spartan region. I'll exterminate this threat immediately.
Now, Ares, direct combat interference in the games is forbidden, regardless of infiltrators. If you're so confident in your son's victory, you should have let them defeat this foe.
My sons are more than capable of defeating them, but I don't want anyone ruining the integrity of this competition. I'll be on my way, Zeus, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
Ares then continued through the portal and had now appeared at the land of Sparta, where he would go to inform Deimos of this infiltrator. But little did Ares know, the infiltrator was watching them from afar, hiding in plain sight, and was waiting for his opportunity to strike. While all this was happening in the Spartan region, back in the Olympian region, I realized I was a little bit taller now, so I expanded the entrance to my house and tested out my leap ability. I then took a look at the commander helmet recipe, which required 2 iron and 3 gold ingots. I then smelted up some gold and then crafted myself the commander helmet. Once this helmet was given to one of the villagers, it would appoint them as second in command to my army. So now with this commander helmet, it was time to build the army barracks. So with an empty plot of land nearby, I began building the army barracks using the materials gathered by Leon and Andy. I mainly used diorite, andesite, and calcite for the walls, and used the warp planks for the roof. Once the outer shell was complete, I finished the build by putting in some wood flooring and fixing the interiors. And just like that, the army barracks were complete. There was plenty of room for an army to fit here. All that was left was to appoint a commander. So listen up, guys. I need to appoint one of you as commander of our legion. So each one of you can explain what...
Huh?
Did you really just... Well, Leon, you're hired.
It will be an honor to serve as commander of Olympia. Thank you, Hercules.
So without much hesitation, I handed the commander helmet over to Leon, and once he had it equipped, he was now commander of the army. As commander, you're gonna have some new responsibilities. The first thing I'm gonna need you to do is start appointing some of the villagers to be a part of our army. I have faith you'll do the job right. So Leon went ahead to get some work done at the barracks, while Andy seemed to doze off once again. I then headed back to my base, and now had plans to go exploring, but first tended to my sugarcane farms, harvested some more bread, crafted and enchanted a diamond sword, and was now ready to go exploring. After a couple days of traveling and trekking through the mountains of Olympia, I eventually reached the edge of a jungle. I was hoping I could find a new village, but decided to take this detour and see what was inside the jungle. I first collected some bamboo and found myself some melon seeds. However, when I turned a corner, I had ran right into a tiger which leapt right at me. I was forced to fight off the tiger, which was doing a ton of damage, but with a shot of my bow, I defeated the tiger. After eating some food and regenerating my health, I continued through the jungle with a bit more caution. However, after hearing some rustling in the bushes, I got shot by an arrow in the distance. I immediately started to run and was brought down to half a heart. I ate some food to regen and continued running away from the bowman. I used my leap ability to get some distance, but got hit down to half a heart again. I took one more leap outside of the jungle and spotted the 2 bowmen hiding behind a tree. It seemed like I wasn't very welcome in the jungle, so I had an idea. I decided to back away from the jungle jungle and wait until nighttime. With the benefit of having night vision, I took a look to see if the coast was clear, and using my leap ability, parkoured onto one of the giant rocks and leapt up onto the top of the trees. So to try and explore the rest of the jungle, I used my leap ability to hop from tree to tree to see if I could find a village. And after looking the entire night, I eventually spotted something past the trees. It ended up being a jungle civilization, hidden in the heart of the jungle. With the sun rising, I tried figuring out a way to approach this village, and I then saw these were the same villagers that attacked me. I decided I better leap in quick and tell them I come in peace before I got attacked again. Listen up, villagers, I come in peace. My name is Hercules, god of strength. Please bring me your village chief so we can speak. I'm not sure what's wrong with these guys, it's a bit weird, they're just staring at me. Wait, okay, that one's running off. Maybe he's getting the village chief? I then leapt after the villager and was faced by the village chief, who was none other than Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Artemis? You're the village chief?
Of course. Now explain yourself. What's the purpose of your visit?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but let me give you some context first. I then explained what was going on with the competition for the throne of Olympus and how I was competing against Deimos and Phobos. I then had to quickly come up with a reason on the fly as to why I came to this village. So the purpose of my visit was to actually seek an alliance with neighboring villages.
Alliance? Why would I need assistance from you?
There's a very good reason. Your village stands between my village and the Athenian region, which happens to be where Phobos is. Meaning before Phobos reaches me, he'll reach you. My army could help defend your village, and in turn, you could help defend ours in case of an invasion. It would be a fair trade, 50-50.
You make a good argument, Hercules, but I'll only enter an alliance with the likes of you under 3 conditions. First, never to enter my forest without my permission. I value my privacy. Second, if an enemy invades, the allied army must come to defend each other. Third, any offensive invasion of enemies must be agreed upon by both parties.
Those conditions sound reasonable. I'll agree. Let's make it official. So following Artemis into her temple, we both signed a treaty that would make our alliance official. Before I go, Artemis, I must ask, are there any other villages nearby in the Olympian region?
Yes, there are a couple more. Seek out the village of Pyrgos to the west. There, you may find more allies.
Thank you, Artemis. Till we meet again. So with new directions from Artemis of where the nearest village was, I began making my way out of the village and to exit the jungle. And after a couple days of traveling out of the jungle, as well as heading west towards the village, I eventually found it on day 24 and was now entering the village of Pyrgos. As I was reaching the edge of the village, I saw something approaching me, and it turned out to be one of the villager guards.
Hercules, welcome to Pyrgos. Right this way. Let me introduce you to our leader.
It seemed I had a pretty warm welcome, so I followed Bill the villager guard to their leader.
Hercules, a pleasure to meet the son of Zeus. What brings you to my humble abode?
Wait, you're the leader of this village?
Yes, I am. Don't let my age fool you. I've fought in hundreds of battles and now lead a life committed to helping my people.
Well, you're the one I was looking for then. I have a proposition. I'd like Pyrgos and my city Olympia to enter an alliance.
That would be splendid, but our army isn't very strong. We can only provide resources.
Well, our city is expanding. We could have your villagers move to Olympia if you're looking for more protection.
I only want what's best for my people, so if it means they're better protected, that would be ideal.
All right, we'll prepare more village homes are waiting for your arrival. I recommend giving yourselves 10 days before moving out. We'll need some time to build the homes.
That will be plenty. Thank you, Hercules. Pyrgos will bring our very best.
After coming to an agreement with Bob, I did some looking around the village of Pyrgos and found a pretty big temple in the back. The temple ended up being to Zeus, which made sense why they recognized me. After a pretty successful mission of exploring, I began heading back to base from the village of Pyrgos. After a couple days of travel, I made my way back to Olympia. Now that I was back at Olympia, my first order of business was to find Leon and Andy so I could assign them a couple new jobs. Leon, Andy, I have some new jobs for you. Have the villagers help you build up some new homes. We'll be having some more villagers from Pyrgos arriving in 10 days.
Yes, sir.
We'll get right on it, Hercules. We will need your help building the weapon and armor smithing houses so our army can get properly equipped. Most of the materials are in the chests by the barracks to build them.
Sounds like a plan. I'll get it done. Now, I wasn't expecting to get assigned a task by Leon, but I was definitely up for it after seeing the amount of materials they left me to build the blacksmith. So I decided to used a little bit of empty land in front of the barracks as a spot to build the blacksmith. I first created a little outline with andesite and decided to add quartz pillars and quartz for the walls. I made sure to match the general style of the other buildings and even added a little chimney, a small dome roof, and an outdoor patio. I then added an exterior wall to connect the build to the ground, and just like that, the armor and weaponsmithing house was complete. I made sure to include the chimney and an anvil inside, and a cauldron and anvil outside. I then ran over to Leon by the barracks to tell him I had finished the blacksmith. The weapon and armor smithing house is now done, Leon.
Thank you, Hercules. Perfect. I'll appoint a weapon and armor smith to operate each one.
Leon then ran past me to go appoint a weapon and armor smith, and by the time I went over, there was a craft available inside the armor smith house. It was for Olympian armor and required a bunch of different materials. On the outside by the weaponsmith was a craft for Nemean gauntlets, which required a lot of different materials as well. I wasn't entirely sure which one to try and craft first, so I went to ask Leon. So, Leon, which one of these should I craft first?
It'll be best to focus on your armor first, before the weapons, as the gauntlets will be impossible to acquire without a proper set of armor.
Why would it be impossible?
To craft the Nemean gauntlets, you must acquire a Nemean lion essence, which means defeating a Nemean lion, an extremely tough foe that rules the Nemean region of the jungle of Olympia.
Back in the jungle? I was just there. I had just visited Artemis's village and we formed a treaty.
You were lucky to escape alive. The Nemean lion is always on the hunt.
Before I could finish my conversation with Leon, Zeus had reappeared once again.
I've come with news, Hercules. Deimos has entered the Olympian region with a small army on a scouting mission.
Already? We'll need to prepare our army right away, Leon.
Calm down, Hercules. He's not headed for Olympia. He's headed for a small village named Pyrgos. You'll have time to prepare.
What? Pyrgos, I've got to go now.
Wait! I can't stop you from going, but if you confront Deimos, I cannot interfere. Remember, you'll have the best chance with an army by your side.
I'll take my chances, Zeus. Leon, I'll need you to hold down the fort here. I've got to go warn Pyrgos. I'll be back soon, I promise.
Please be careful, Hercules. I'll do my best.
Zeus then disappeared in a flash of lightning, and now having this information from Zeus, I quickly gathered some wheat and crafted some bread so I could start heading to Pyrgos and warn them of Deimos' arrival. After a couple days of rushing over to Pyrgos, I eventually made it to the village. But while approaching it, I noticed it was in flames. I jumped up onto a tree to get a better look and saw Deimos, the god of terror, standing in the middle of the village. He was accompanied by a small army of his Spartan soldiers.
Pillage what remains. Next on the list is Olympia. On the double, men.
Before Deimos could leave, Ares had appeared through a portal.
Deimos, what are you doing here? Kratos has invaded Sparta and is destroying the city. Hurry back now.
Kratos, we're heading back to Sparta now. Move, men, move!
Deimos then started rushing back to Sparta with his men, worried about the potential invasion on Sparta. Ares then retreated back into the portal, and now that the coast was clear, I leapt into the village and went to look around for any potential survivors. As I looked around, I noticed the houses were completely decimated. There were no survivors to be seen, and I was hoping that they had escaped. I also noticed they left behind a lot of materials, so I took some of the anvils and bookshelves, and then started heading back to Olympia. After a couple days of travel, I eventually made it back. However, while approaching the stairs, I noticed someone in the distance. Hey, is that Bob? Bob, you escaped in time? How did you know Deimos was coming?
It's great to see you, Hercules. Our worship to Zeus paid off, and Zeus personally warned us of Deimos' arrival.
Zeus did? He didn't mention that to me. Anyways, I'll have Leon and Andy show you to your new homes. Follow me. I was definitely glad to see Bob and the villagers alive, but I had a feeling Zeus wanted to test me. I continued leading Bob and the villagers to their new homes, but then noticed Leon and Andy coming across the bridge. I then introduced them to Bob and the villagers, and had Leon and Andy guide them to their new homes so they could get to know each other. Now that Bob and the villagers are moved in, I thought it would be a good idea to talk to the armor smith and ask him a few questions. Hello, Alex. How do I acquire the ancient Olympian essence I need to craft this armor?
Your best bet is to search the ruins of the underground Colosseum to the east of Olympia. Take this map. There you may find what you need.
Thank you, Alex. I'll return soon. So after acquiring a new map from Alex the armor smith, I now had a new goal. But before setting out to find the ancient Colosseum, I put a couple new tasks on the signboard, including making a library, but also a little alchemy workshop. I luckily had leftover materials from building the armor smith, and decided a good spot for the library would be down in the valley below. I first started by adding a little staircase down that was connected to the bridge above. I then started setting an andesite foundation for the library, placed down some pillars pillars and made a little bit of a wood floor. I then started building up the pillars individually and started creating the walls out of quartz and calcite. After finishing the outer walls, I continued by adding a dome-shaped roof in a classic ancient Greek style. And after finishing the interior, the library was complete. I made sure to place the enchantment station in the middle of the library. Now I just needed things to enchant. So I went back to my base, made myself some torches, and headed out to go mining. I eventually found myself a cave outside Olympia and immediately started mining as much as I could. I got all sorts of different minerals, including diamonds and lapis, but also got myself a bunch of levels. After that successful mining trip, I headed back to base, and I now had plenty of diamonds, enough to craft a full set of diamond armor. With the full set, I went over to the enchantment station and made sure to enchant each piece to try and get some sort of protection. My last bit of preparation involved getting some apples, smelting up the gold, and crafting some golden apples. I also made sure to craft and enchant some diamond tools. I was now more than ready to head out and follow the map to the Colosseum. But on the way over to the Colosseum, a major event was taking place in the middle of the jungle. Phobos, the god of fear, had arrived in the jungle. Not only that, but he had brought his army and was trying to invade Artemis's village.
Surrender, Artemis.
Over my dead body.
Then I shall grant you salvation.
All of a sudden, the battle begun between Phobos and Artemis's armies. The Athenian warriors and Artemis's soldiers clashed in the middle. While their armies were fighting, the battle had begun between Artemis and Phobos, but the result of this war was unknown. On day 46, I'd finally arrived at the ancient Colosseum. After taking a look around, I found an entrance that led underground. Wait, where is the Colosseum? As I walked up, a message appeared with the message trial number 1, agility. It seemed like I had to go through some trials to reach this Colosseum, the first one being parkour. So I started jumping from pillar to pillar, and eventually I decided to stop as I used my leap ability to reach the end. Well, that wasn't so bad. I then made my way down a spiral staircase, and when I reached the bottom, new text appeared saying trial number 2, intellect. It appeared to be a bit of a maze, where I immediately disarmed an arrow trap. So I began navigating the maze to try and find the end. Before I knew it, I accidentally stepped on a pressure plate that spawned in a creeper. After taking the creeper down, I rounded a corner and found some strange looking venomous spiders. I got poisoned by one, but took them both out, then looted the chest, which had a few diamonds. I then continued breaking traps throughout the maze and fighting off the venomous spiders. I also found a second chest, which had a golden apple, some gold, and emeralds. But after rounding one of the corners, I eventually found a strange room, and there was a strange hole in the middle. So I jumped down the hole to see what was below and found the underground Colosseum, and had now reached trial number 3, the Trial of Might. In front of me stood the fallen defender, which sprung to life when I walked up to it. The battle had begun and I landed a few hits with my diamond sword. The fallen defender did a spinning attack, which did a lot of damage. So I ate a golden apple and started using my bow from range. The fallen defender hit me back once again, and I leapt back in, landing some more hits. I barely dodged one of its stab attacks and launched a counter attack. The fallen defender tried hitting me with a ranged attack, and all of a sudden unsheathed a massive blade. It started slashing me with giant beams, which did a ton of damage. I was forced to eat another golden apple, leapt away, and continued using my bow. I jumped back into the action, but then got pushed away by its shield. After re-engaging, I landed a bunch more hits, and with no healing left, barely defeated the fallen defender. The Olympian essence I needed dropped from the fallen defender, and the exit to the Colosseum opened up behind him. I then climbed up the spiral staircase and made it back to the surface. So I began traveling back to base, and on day 50, I returned to Olympia. With the ancient Olympian essence in hand, I went back to the armor smith to see what other materials I would need. I was still in need of 16 gold and 32 diamonds, so I crafted myself a diamond pickaxe and was lucky to get a Fortune 3 enchant. With my new pickaxe, I went into a new cave, and after a few days of mining some diamonds and gold, I eventually had enough to return back to base and now had all the materials I would need to craft the armor.
I've gotten all the materials for the Olympian armor, Alex.
Excellent. Remember, your Olympian armor set is infused with an ancient essence, giving it the ability to equip an entire army.
A whole army?
I'm gonna need 1 day to forge the armor, so come back tomorrow.
Okay, I'll be back soon.
I then handed Alex all the materials, and after waiting a full day for my Olympian armor to be crafted, I went back over to Alex to retrieve the armor.
The Olympian armor is complete. May it provide you divine protection.
And so standing on the armor stand was my Olympian armor. I took the armor off the stand and equipped the full set. Once I had it equipped, the Olympian armor gave me my next power-up. I now had 30 hearts and acquired speed and strength too. Also, my leap ability was upgraded and I acquired the boulder toss ability, which seemed to be pretty powerful. But all of a sudden, Zeus appeared in a flash of lightning.
Good work acquiring your Olympian armor, Hercules. But you remain one step behind Phobos and Deimos. Phobos has defeated the Hydra in the mountains of Athens, and Deimos has defeated the Soul Knight in the wastelands of Sparta, both acquiring the essence they need to craft their legendary weapons.
Which means I need to go defeat the Nemean lion.
Precisely, which is what you'll need to craft your legendary Nemean gauntlets. They'll be vital to your success. Take this map, it'll help you track down the Nemean lion.
Thank you, Zeus. I'll do my best.
Try not to die.
Zeus had now left me with the map, which was a map of the Nemean region, deep in the same jungle that I was in. Before trying to tackle this goal, it was about time I built my actual base. But I was gonna need materials, so I went to mine a bunch of different blocks, including diorite, deep slate, and also tuff and andesite. I also had Commander Leon fetch me some materials, including quartz and warped planks. And last but not least, I mined myself some wood and clay. And I then got started on the foundation of my build. I made sure to use andesite again and started making some pillars on the outer sides. I then began building up the inner walls with quartz, and using spruce planks for the roof, I added a quartz and warped planked roof, and added a second layer on top. I then completed the interior with some chest furnaces and a throne, and just like that, my temple was complete. I made sure to move in all the important stuff, and tested out the throne. Now that my base was complete, I decided to head out to see if I could find this Nemean lion. However, after taking a wrong turn, I ended up seeing something in the distance. It turned out to be a massive volcano. So after slowly scaling up, I found a bunch of nether quartz that I mined along the ridge, and I also found some magma cubes. I took them out for some magma cream, and I also found some nether wart and soul sand. I then leapt up to the top of the volcano and found myself a bunch of blazes. I tested out my boulder toss and defeated the blazes one by one, collecting a bunch of blaze rods. After that, I began making my way back down and found some glowstone in a nearby boulder. After mining all the glowstone, I also found and mined a bunch of nether gold. With a Fortune 3 pickaxe, I got plenty of gold, started to head back to base with all my materials. After another day or two of travel, I made it back to my base and figured it was time to start working on my alchemy area. I started by crafting some brewing stands and also gathered a bunch of apples to make some golden apples and began building the alchemy workshop in the second layer of my base. I put some water underneath the brewing stands and set up a small netherwort farm. I also set up a melon farm next to the wheat farm and collected some sand so I could smelt it into glass. Using the melons and golden nuggets, I crafted some glistening melons and glass bottles. I then brewed my first batch of instant health potions, and with all the levels I got from the quartz, I enchanted my Olympian armor with level 30 enchants. I was now more than ready to set out to find the Nemean lion, and after a couple days of travel, I made it back to the jungle. While trekking through the jungle, there was a minor interruption. Whoa, who's that?
Stop right there, intruder.
Intruder? Where? Wait, stop, I come in peace. Without warning, Kratos, the god of war, began attacking me. I was forced to fight back as we duked it out in the middle of the jungle. After a couple minutes of fighting, we were met with an interruption from Zeus. Stop, Kratos, I've been trying to tell you. I'm allied with Artemis. I'm welcome in her forest.
You haven't allied yourself with Deimos or Phobos?
No, I'm against them. With a little help from Zeus to stop the fight, it allowed me to explain to him the competition and my alliance with Artemis, and that I was competing against Deimos and Phobos.
We share a common enemy, Hercules. I've had my run-ins with Zeus, but my ultimate goal is to take down Ares' bloodline.
Well, I'll need help against Deimos and Phobos, as they'll inevitably team up against me. They are brothers after all. Before I can team up, I need to find and defeat the Nemean lion.
The Nemean lion, eh? Good luck with that.
Hey, if we're gonna be allies, have a little more faith in me, would ya?
When you're finished hunting the Nemean lion, I'll bring you to my hideout. Farewell, Hercules.
After reaching this agreement with Kratos, he ran back into the jungle, and I continued my quest to find the Nemean lion. While following the map, I noticed some harpies in the distance. So I began battling off the harpies and started taking them out one by one. And after defeating them all, I continued through the jungle. I was now getting a lot closer to the spot on the map, and all of a sudden I heard a loud roar. So I began running into the direction of the roar, and after leaping around for a bit, I saw him in the distance. He roared once again, and I leapt forward to chase him down. But when I rounded the corner, he was gone. I looked all around the trees and the mountains and couldn't find him anywhere. That's when I realized he must have gone into the cave. So I started climbing down to investigate. Eventually, once I was deep enough, I found a lush cave. It was a massive cave, which had some strange mushroom mobs around. I looked around more for the Nemean lion, and after about a day of searching, I finally found him.
Is he sleeping?
The Nemean lion then began to awaken, and I leapt in and took a swipe attack to the face. I then landed a couple of bow shots and got hit by a couple more swipe attacks. I then leapt away to create some distance. The Nemean lion then charged right at me and pounced on me, doing a bunch of damage and withering me. I was forced to jump away to heal, but the Nemean lion launched tornadoes at me. He then let out a massive roar and summoned in a bunch more tornadoes. I waited for them to disappear and re-engage with the Nemean lion, and then summoned some more and landed some swipe attacks, forcing me to eat another golden apple, but was knocked away by some more tornadoes. I closed the distance once again and had the Nemean lion on really low HP. I went in to finish him off, and after a few more hits, I defeated the Nemean lion.
That was insane.
I then noticed it dropped some loot and picked up an ancient Nemean essence. Now that I had the essence I would need to craft my gauntlets, I began making my way out of the cave. Once I made it to the top, I leapt on out, but immediately came face to face with Kratos again.
You're alive? I guess the Nemean lion wasn't so tough after all.
It was definitely a challenge.
Let's get out of the open. Follow me. Artemis awaits our arrival.
With Kratos leading the way, I followed him until we arrived at a strange temple. It seemed to be partially destroyed, but I continued to follow him to the back of the temple.
Is this supposed to be an entrance?
An entrance to Artemis's backup plan.
Kratos and I then went down into the cave and slowly made our way down the steps. When we turned the corner, I was amazed to find an entire underground village. Kratos and I then continued to one of the buildings, and Artemis was awaiting our arrival. I then noticed she was bandaged up and lost an arm.
Artemis? What happened?
Our scouts detected his army too late. Phobos and his army invaded, and we fought to protect our village. That's when Kratos came in and saved my life.
Artemis and I have been in alliance from the start, and luckily for her, I was coming to stop by. Ironically, to ask for her help to invade Phobos.
That wouldn't have worked out, Kratos. As soon as Phobos had word of the invasion, Deimos would have assisted him in his defense, or even start a counter-invasion.
What do you propose?
Well, Kratos, there's likely gonna be a final showdown. I'll need you to lay low and prepare for it. The element of surprise will be a factor, although they're very aware of you now.
I'll do my best to prepare. When the time comes, it'll be me who takes Phobos' head.
Sounds fair to me.
I'm sorry I can't help, Hercules, but I can provide my army as support to Kratos. They can be as stealthy as you need.
Thank you, Artemis. Please get some rest. Your army's help will be more than enough. Farewell, Artemis.
So with the promise of Artemis's army to help me in the final showdown, I was glad that I'd have some kind of help. I eventually made my way back to the surface, and after some travel, I returned back to base on day 80. I then ran over to the blacksmith to see what other materials I would need. Now I had everything I needed except for the netherite block. So I had an idea. I first gathered up all the materials in a chest, and then set out to go back to the volcano. I had a feeling there'd be ancient debris around here, so I began my ascent back up the volcano, fought off some magma cubes, took down some more blazes, and leapt up to the very top. I was then greeted by some wither skeletons. After taking them down, I found a bunch of ancient debris around the ridge of the volcano. I mined as much as I could, and then started going back down to mine some quartz. Once I had what I needed, I started heading back to base, smelted down all the ancient debris into netherite scrap, and crafted 9 netherite ingots into a netherite block. Now that I had all the materials, I ran over to Blacksmith Braun, and when I gave him everything I would need, I then acquired the Nemean gauntlets. Once I had them equipped, I had achieved my final power-up. I now had 40 hearts, and my boulder throw was upgraded into a meteor throw. I also obtained speed 2, and now had a dash ability. I also tested out swinging my Nemean gauntlets, and tested my meteor throw ability. I then ran over to my enchantment station in the library, and enchanted both my gauntlets with sharpness. I then leapt back over to my base, and went to sleep for the night, but on the next morning, Zeus had appeared once again.
I see you've achieved your final form, Hercules.
Well, I did just craft the Nemean gauntlets, and I feel better than ever.
I've come to inform you of the final phase of this competition, the Olympian phase. On day 95, you must head to the Garden of the Gods, which lies central to Athens, Olympia, and Sparta. Prepare accordingly, Hercules. This will be the final showdown.
Well, what'll happen if I go earlier?
Going earlier isn't an issue, but if you show up late, you'll forfeit the competition and be banished from Olympus.
Alright, I understand, Zeus. I'll do my best to prepare my army.
Don't be late.
Zeus then disappeared in a flash of lightning, and I now had my final quest. I dashed over to the barracks to talk to Leon and told him we'll be getting ready for the final battle. It was now time for me to use the ability of my Olympian armor, which was to equip an entire army. I went up to each of the soldiers, giving them a set of armor, and they were now each equipped with an Olympian armor set. Leon then thanked me and assured me he'd be ready soon, so I went back to my base to start preparing. I first harvested my netherwort farm, filled up some glass bottles, and brewed up some fire resistance and some more instant health potions. I then crafted myself a brand new bow and enchanted it with power 4. I then realized I was kind of low on golden apples, so I returned to the volcano to mine some gold. I used my fortune pickaxe to mine as much as I could, crafted them into gold ingots, then went back to Olympia to gather apples. I then crafted myself 16 more golden apples and harvested another stack of bread. While I was preparing in Olympia, over in the city of Sparta, Ares had helped Deimos prepare his army, as they were now ready to enter the Olympian phase. And over in the city of Athens, Ares had also helped Phobos prepare his entire army. But they weren't the only ones prepared. I had also prepared my Olympian army. Leon had equipped them all with diamond swords and shields, and my army was ready to move out. I then told Leon it was time for us to move, and so we started traveling to the center of the map. Traveling with the army took a little while, as we had a long distance to travel, but eventually on day 100, we had made it to the center of the map. It wasn't long after I arrived that Kratos and his army came out of the bushes. Now that we were reunited, we discussed the game plan. We both charged into the center of the map, ready to take on Deimos and Phobos, but they hadn't showed up yet. Without warning, a storm began to form overhead, and it began pouring rain. Before I knew it, Deimos and his army began barreling out of the trees, and Phobos and his army came out from the other side. Kratos and I were now face to face with Deimos and Phobos.
Kratos, you're prepared to die for the son of Zeus.
No, I'm prepared to kill the son of Ares.
Spartans, draw your weapons. Charge!
My army charged in against the Spartans, and they began a violent clash. On the opposite side, Phobos' army charged in against Kratos' army. After a while, the two armies duking it out, I decided to charge in against Deimos. I landed the first couple of hits, but got knocked back by a swipe attack. He knocked me back once again, so I ate a golden apple and went in to land some hits. He then launched 2 swords at me and began doing a spinning attack. I went back in and landed a few more hits, but his spinning attack did a lot of damage and threw me up into the air. I now had Deimos on half HP, but while fighting Deimos, Kratos was also in battle with Phobos. Kratos was landing a bunch of punches, but Phobos landed a significant strike. Kratos then began to run.
Hercules, I need some assistance.
I then started running over to Kratos to help him out, and I switched to attacking Phobos while Kratos switched to Deimos. I began duking it out with Phobos, and his attacks did a ton of damage. I started landing my combos, but got hit by his spike ability. I was forced to eat a golden apple, and he slammed the ground once again. He hit me with another one of his battle axes, knocking me away. I threw down one of my potions and ate another golden apple, and had him on really low HP. One more hit should do it. Yes!
Avenge me, brother.
I had now defeated Phobos, but right behind me, Kratos and Deimos were still fighting. With a swipe of Deimos' sword, Kratos got sent flying away, and I was now in a 1 versus 1. Deimos then slammed into the ground, creating an earthquake that destroyed the land around him. The massive beams were withering me, and I was forced to take a step back. I took a ton of damage and splashed down 2 instant health potions. While launching my counterattack, he made it rain down a bunch of swords. I closed the distance once again, but got knocked away by one of his attacks. I continued throwing boulders at him to try and take him down, but he began casting another ability. He summoned a bunch of black clouds and swords, and continued hitting me with his blade. Come on, I have him so low! I only needed a few more hits, and then Deimos had collapsed and I had won the competition.
I'm sorry, Father.
Before I knew it, I was transported to Olympus. It was now facing Zeus and Ares.
You may have won the battle, Hercules, but you won't win the war. Good riddance, Zeus.
And in a raging fit, Ares exited through the portal.
Congratulations, Hercules. You will now succeed the throne of Olympus.
And now Hercules was the true successor of the throne of Olympus. A big thank you to my entire team and all of you for making this possible. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great day.